All right, this is part two of the lecture for chapter four on safety and practicing safety. So, last we ended was talking about electrical static or electrostatic discharge. So we'll go ahead and continue with this lecture at this point. So electrical safety is important for all employees to be aware of different types of electrical equipment, making sure that you are following policies and procedures as far as who can open up electrical panels or plug things in, turn things out on and off. Certainly, if a panel is open, you present and have a potential for arc flash or arc blast in that particular type of equipment. So anybody that would be working as a frontline worker on those would need information in terms of electrical safety and training for those type of incidents. All companies must follow a procedure called lockout tagout, or LOTO, lockout tagout. This, of course, is a process used to prevent equipment from accidentally starting up or releasing or storing stored energy when it's being serviced or maintenance, or if it's shut down for any other reason. So that way it always protects workers who may not be aware that there is a problem or some issues with equipment, and they won't go and accidentally start that equipment up. Other workplace precautions, of course, are in ventilation. So you want to be aware of the air you breathe and in tight, confined spaces. Now, certainly there are certain areas that are much, much more prone to this. Obviously, any type of grinding action that is going on is going to create small particulate matter that you could possibly ingest through your lungs. Sanding and sawdust presents this happen. Even different types of vapors in the air can cause that, and you want to be able to ventilate that away, especially in the welding processes when we're using different types of gases and those are emitted. You want to have a hood over there that's also going to pull some of those fumes away so that we're not breathing those in. Ergonomics is also critical. Ergonomics is the science of designing and arranging things that people use. So if you think about like your mouse on your computer and even your computer laptop, those have been designed specifically to go with the human hand so that and be used in such a way to prevent overexposure or what is referred to as repetitive stress injuries. So, and the terms of your hand or your wrist, it might be carpal tunnel. There are other types of injuries that would occur. When we are acting and working in an 8 to 10 hour type of shift, there are other products that are designed to help with the human body, and ergonomics is the study of designing and arranging those things that people use. When we start to use hand saws or other power tools, I'll talk to you about your proper stance or the way you're holding a tool so that you can make sure that if you had to use that tool for 8 to 10 hours a day, you wouldn't wear yourself out. You would be able to kind of last the whole length of time without causing too much injury to your hand. Lighting is very, very important. Lots of companies nowadays are getting much, much more involved in getting better lighting in the area. That's important, especially with an aged workforce where our eyesight is starting to kind of go. So dim lit areas are not always easy, and sometimes mistakes can be made when you can't see things that you need to be able to see. Obviously, we need to be aware of exits, entrances, exits, doors, doorways, areas of egress, and of course what's on the floor to prevent slips, trips, and falls, and make sure that there's nothing in our pathway. So all of these are different types of precautions that you would need to be aware of in the workforce. There are color codes that go along with the workplace. So typically if you see the color red, especially on any signage, that means danger or stop or emergency. Think in terms of your stop signs that are out there. So they're red. Orange is a warning. So yellow means caution. Blue is a color for just information, or often is kind of used for caution as well. White is generally used for storage areas. Green, of course, means safety. And then if you have a magenta or a black on yellow type of color pattern, that's generally indicative of radiation there. So you want to be aware of those and know and understand that color code that's out there. When we talk about other workplace precautions, housekeeping is very, very important. Keeping things neat, organized, and clutter-free is definitely something. There is a whole lean manufacturing concept called 5S that is practiced by most people in manufacturing today that helps to kind of take care of keeping things in their place and making sure that the work site is organized and ready to go. Ladders, scaffolds, lift baskets. So these are also very important because, of course, you can fall off a ladder or a scaffold. So you want to be aware of safety issues that are on that. Workers that are on scaffolds higher than 10 feet above the landing surface have to use fall protection and tie off. Any type of egress or platform that is higher than 4 feet above the ground needs to have some type of guardrails put around it to keep employees from falling off. So, and that would kind of, loading docks are kind of fall in line for something like this where you want to be careful of that. Safe work permits are required for confined spaces, hot work, or radiation type work. We also need to be aware of hazardous materials. We have both chemical hazards and biological hazards, and usually these are referred to, and we have our SDSs, the safety data sheets, that would go along with this. Now notice up here we have what's referred to as a MSDS sheet, so this is kind of an older information. So you will still hear a lot of people refer to them as MSDS sheets, but they are really just called an SDS, a safety data sheet now. So hazard communication is manufacturer's responsibility. It is a way to keep employees aware of the hazards that are in that area and to communicate that hazard. So manufacturers are responsible for providing published information about their products. Usually they do that through the SDS. Employers are responsible for providing that information to the workers. So you should have some place, if you are working, ask your employer if you do not know where are the SDS sheets and where would you go to find out information about any of the hazards that you might be subjected to. It is the worker's responsibility to make sure that you know how to use that material and know how to read and interpret that material as well. So again, this is all done through the material safety data sheets, and what we refer to as a hazardous material identification system, or HMIS. So that's a rating on a scale of 0 to 4. So when we talk about other types of handling processes and how we handle hazardous materials, we have to be aware of compressed gases. In most of our labs, that includes the high pressure airlines. So we have to be aware of hazardous material accidents, exposure monitoring. And when we talk about exposure monitoring, we're talking about exposure to noise, exposure to gases, exposure to chemicals, and monitoring that type of exposure as we go. So talk about hazardous waste. So hazardous waste is produced, of course, when hazardous materials are used, and there is proper storage or transport and disposal methods that have to be followed. So a lot of our solvents or a lot of our chemicals, we can't just dump down the sink. So always confer and check with your instructor on how to properly dispose of anything that you are not sure of or even have questions about in the labs. We also need to be able to respond to emergencies. So companies are responsible for having an emergency plan, scheduling emergency plan drills, having evacuation routes, and having emergency response teams that can either show up to administer first aid or CPR there as well. So, and of course, in my lab, there is a file folder hanger right next to the exit doors that does contain all of that information. So as a quick review, so there are some questions on here as well, so I'll let you go through and take a look at those, but we are pretty much ending the chapter 4 here as far as safety and what you need to be aware of when you are working in a industrial setting.